Hey guys, so I wanted to do a little video for you about an insight that I had a couple of weekends ago, and it's about identity and it's about who we are. And my last video kind of spoke to this a little bit, so there might be a little bit of crossover. But essentially, my insight came as a very very profound question, which was like, who is Adam? Like, who is Adam? And when I kind of sat with that thought for a while, it started to dawn on me that maybe, and I only ever speak from my own kind of very humble experience, but maybe Adam is just a concept based on what other people have said he is. So, how did I get to that point? Well, when you meditate, and you're in a meditative state, for me, I become aware of there being something greater than me that's present. And I suppose the way that I can describe it is like Adam becomes like almost like a performance, and then there's something above that that's observing Adam. So I'm able to, in a meditative state, be like, oh wow, look at Adam. So by definition, that to me means there's two parts, or there's something more to me than just the kind of like the surface identity. So then it kind of like got me thinking about, well, kind of I didn't get to choose my DNA. The egg and the sperm of my mum and my dad, I didn't get to choose that. And I didn't get to choose the parenting that I had, and I know I spoke a little bit about that in the last video. And it kind of got me laughing because I thought I didn't even get to choose my own name. And from the moment I was conceived, the environment around me was telling me who I was, verbally and non-verbally. So the condition that my mum's womb was in was kind of shaping me to be who I am now. You know, the temperature, the music that was played, the food that my mum ate, that kind of stuff was all kind of shaping me to be who I am today. And then from the moment I was born and I came out of the womb, not to be too graphic, but from the moment I was like born, then everyone else started to have a say about who I was. And they would look at me and tell me things about me. Oh, Adam, you're this. Oh, Adam, you're that. Or you're a naughty boy. Or you're a good boy. Or, oh, aren't you good at doing that? Or, oh, I don't think you're very good at that, are you? And kind of like, then school happens, and then our teachers start like telling us who we are. And it just kind of like, I got to a point of hilarity with it where I was thinking, Adam is kind of, maybe, who knows, but maybe Adam is just a concept based on everyone else's view of who he is, of who I am. And then because of that, I then take that on board because that's all I know. So people out there tell me who I am. I go, oh, so I must be that then. And then I go around acting like Adam. But actually, I'm acting, maybe, in accordance with what everyone else thinks I am. Like, right. So where do you go from there? Well, there's two things that really stood out for me. One was, shit, if that's true, if there's some truth in that, then I am responsible for the projections that I put onto everybody else. So when I see someone in the street and I'm like, oh, they look miserable, if their identity is a creation of everybody else's projections around them, then my projection of you're miserable is kind of forming their identity. So I then like trap them in that identity. And I think, I'm a spiritual guy, so I think this is like not just happening verbally. Like, you don't have to go up to someone and say, I think you're miserable. I think the energy that we project onto somebody can shape their identity. So when we look at some of like the people that we speak about so negatively in the world, and there are plenty of like political leaders at the moment who yeah, that's a whole other topic. But people that we don't agree with, and people that we kind of are opposed to, kind of when we call them, or like we dehumanize them, or we use terms that are deeply derogatory towards them, we're actually not helping them, are we, be better people? Maybe. Because we're kind of projecting onto them the identity that we don't want them to have. So it feels a bit kind of like messed up, because we're like, I don't want you to be a horrible dictator, but I'm looking at you going, you're a horrible dictator. and in the act of saying you're a horrible dictator, you're forming that identity. Maybe. So it kind of got me thinking about, well, who is Adam then? If Adam is a construct based on everyone else's thoughts about him up until this point of awareness, now I get a choice. And as my good friend Elizabeth, who's featuring on a podcast soon, by the way, said to me, without awareness, there is no choice. So until I've been aware that maybe Adam is just a construct based on what everyone else thinks he is, I didn't have a choice to be any different. But now I do, because I have some say in that. So if I want to be a good person, then I can just choose to be a good person. If I want to wake up tomorrow and, dye my hair pink, it's not pink anymore, but it was, well, I can do that. And the thing that will stop me doing that is if I surround myself by people that don't support me in who I want to be, because they'll keep projecting old projections onto me. And that's a really, really hard thing, because when I'm trying to grow as an individual, if I continue to surround myself by people and communities of people that don't support the person who I want to become, I'm going to have a problem, aren't I? Because I'm trying to change, but their projections will keep pushing me back into a place that I don't want to be, maybe. I mean, this is just all like in my head. So then it got me thinking about like the role of therapist and my role as a therapist and how I'm there for my clients. And actually, Carl Rogers said basically people have a self-actualizing tendency. So he basically said if you remove judgment and you show compassion, people will naturally grow. They will naturally develop and grow towards their best self. And that just makes so much sense, because essentially the therapy room should be a space where those projections that are ever present in people's lives are significantly limited. The therapist's role is to roll back those projections and sit in front of the person and say in their minds, and maybe sometimes even verbally, like, I see you as a human being. I don't see you as depressed. I don't see you as anxious. I don't see you as hateful. I don't see you as jealous. I don't see you as any of those things, because if I see you as those things, then I limit you to being those things. I basically like scupper you from being any more than the projection that I put upon you. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if I'm making sense. But it's really struck me, because it's like two major things. The first thing is I don't have to subscribe to the projections that people place upon me. That's the first thing. But if I'm to realize my truest potential, then I have to think carefully about who I surround myself with, and make sure that the people that I surround myself with are people who reflect back to me the person that I want to be. Now, that's not to say I want to be around people who are like, Adam, you're amazing, sycophants. I don't want a group of sycophants following me around. I'm humble enough to want people around me who will provide balance. who will call me out when I'm not being, a good person. But I also don't want to surround myself by people that are going to tell me that I'm a bad person, or that I'm somehow flawed, or all those kind of things, because I don't want to be limited to those labels. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is what I said earlier, that weight of responsibility, that maybe I am in some way responsible for building somebody else's identity. Maybe I'm responsible for building your identity. So when I sit here and I say I love you, and I see you as a perfect human being full of love, maybe that's my way of removing a limitation that the world and everyone in it has placed upon you. And if we could all do that, if we could all find a way to have a practice where we refrain from judgment, where we limit our projections on others. And that's not to say that we can't take issue with someone's behavior. You can be appalled by someone's behavior and still see the humanity in them. I firmly believe that. But when you stop seeing the humanity in somebody, maybe you limit them to grow beyond their behavior. I don't know. I'm going to be talking about this in a podcast, I reckon, because it feels significant. Because the world is now like, wow, there's like so many possibilities. Because if I can kind of be who I want to be, I can choose which of those projections to take in and which to reject. And I can do that with humility, not arrogance, but I can do that with a humility and a desire to grow beyond my false identity, which is what I now see it as. I see it as a false identity. I don't see that the Adam that has walked this planet for 33 years is the only possibility. And so how can I see the humanity in others, and how can I forgive myself for the past and for not seeing this? And it's a question that I have put to clients, it's a question that I've put to groups of people that I've spoken with. And to me, it's a really simple question. What would love do? When you're faced with a situation, what would love do? I'm going to leave you with that. Let me know what you think. If you got this far and you watched the video to this point, then let me know what you think. Who do you think you are? And the whole idea of like, are we limited by the projections that we place upon others and that they place upon us? Like, let me know. I'd be really interested to start a discussion on it. And if any one of you want to kind of come on the podcast because you like, wow, this is like interesting and I want to talk about it, then let me know that too, because it'd be nice to have a guest to talk about this stuff with. Okay. Mwah. Take care. I love you. Go lightly into the rest of the week.